Welcome back to season 3 of the VoiceCast. Here we are, season 3, episode 2. My name is Pastor Sonia, and today we have with us, like usual, Pastor Cremona.
Heyo.
And we have 2 guests with us. We have Reese.
Hi.
Welcome.
And then we have Izzy. I guess Israel is your real name, but we call you Izzy.
Israel.
Yes,
Israel.
Jacob.
I've had some people switch the way they address me. Like some of the maintenance
To
guys
what?
are like, "You're not Izzy, you're Israel."
Wow.
Oh, wow.
She is.
Israel. I'm like,
intense.
okay.
Wow.
I receive it.
They're really speaking.
Do you ever
into
say
your
like,
life.
"No, I'm Izzy"?
Tomorrow.
I got,
He's gonna write
you
that
I'm gonna
gave
get
me
him
the
back.
idea,
I'm
so
gonna get him back.
do it.
They're gonna really listen to you. So here we go. This season of the VoiceCast is called "It's Not You, It's Me" Conversations. Talking about the fact that it's not really us and what we feel and what we want and our desires and all that good stuff, but it's what God wants. So we will be kind of pointing everything back to the Word, because we are Christians.
Yes.
Amen?
True.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to break some ice right now. So I'm going to name some names, and then you guys are going to pick which one you would have to do without, which one you have to do with, which one you get rid of, which one you pick, whichever one. Either, neither.
I like to get rid.
Just-
I don't
Okay.
like to-
So, John Krasinski or John Stamos?
I'll go first.
Go for
John
it.
Stamos is a classic. So be careful.
I don't know
But
who that is.
John
Go for your
Krasinski is
answer.
also a director and married to Emily Blunt. So
Emily Blunt would
What
still
does the Emily
exist,
Blunt
even if
have to
John
I
do?
know,
Krasinski.
but it's just like it adds to his resume. You don't think Emily Blunt? It's like Rachel Azumai. You know what I mean? Like Emily
your
Blunt-
stock goes up.
yeah, his stock like rose with Emily Blunt.
I'm not gonna lie, I know nothing about celebrities, so
Reese,
I'm just hearing
get off
names
of
right
this
now, and I'm just
episode.
like,
John Krasinski.
Jim from The Office.
I know that.
Okay, or Uncle Jesse
Uncle
from
Jesse.
Full House.
I would go with Jim from The Office.
You would
Okay.
keep or get rid of?
I would keep him. I'd get rid of the other
Get
guy.
rid of Uncle Jesse?
Yeah, just be.
no-
I
no
mean,
love for
he's
John
funny.
Stamos?
I like John
No.
Stamos.
Okay.
No, but you just picked Krasinski.
I know,
No,
but I had
you
to get
hate
rid
him.
of somebody.
You hate him.
You hate him.
Admit it.
I pick Uncle Jesse. We are not
Yeah.
getting rid of
Classic.
John Stamos. We're not. I don't care. Burn The Office. It's John Stamos. It's
Yeah.
Uncle Jesse.
He doesn't
Yeah.
age.
It's too much. But here's my thing though. Like, I love Full House because I've always felt like I was DJ Tanner. And Candace Cameron Bure is like a Christian in Hollywood and still
Yeah,
killing
that's
it.
true.
And
Really?
still looks good.
Yeah.
But I knew since she was little, we had a connection and she's still killing it. So anything
your
connection
friend.
to her,
It's-
keep. So honestly, I want to keep Uncle Jesse because of
'Cause of
Candace.
her.
Wow.
Talk about
that really
intercession
extends
and,
far.
Usually
like the
the
third
people
and
that
fourth
I like or I
generations.
admire, I
Yeah.
keep going, and they're usually like Christian, or they usually are like nice people.
That's
or
how Izzy feels
Keanu
about
Reeves,
Emily
super
Blunt.
awesome.
That's anyone related to her.
Anyone related to her?
Every
my
time I think of
goodness.
Emily
Anyone
Blunt,
British?
I think of Michael Bublé concert that I went to, and they were dating. So
Really?
it was her birthday. He pulled her out and he sang "Happy Birthday" to her. So I
She was
never think
there?
of Devil Wears Prada. I never
always think of
think
Devil Wears Prada.
I always think of her coming out and Michael singing to her, and then they broke up.
Oh,
Yeah.
Goodbye.
See, that's why I would always be afraid to
isn't
be a
real.
musician because they always sing songs
Yeah.
about somebody
They, like,
and then
go
they
hard
break up
about
and it's like now millions of
But
people
then they
have
write
literally
new songs about breaking up with them.
Yeah, and it's just like
make- and
that's
they
out
make-
there forever.
But like
you can't take
Adele,
that back.
Taylor Swift, all them have made a career out
I
of
was gonna
that.
say people
I know,
usually
but-
people
Make
usually
millions.
can't write music once they're happy. Like once they have
guess.
a happy whatever situation.
I would just it's like I would never I don't know, but I would never get a tattoo of like my wife's name. Like, don't get me wrong. Like,
Sorry,
I don't.
Kathy.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't ever see us like nothing. No. Like, we're gonna have a successful marriage. Like, whatever. But it's like the same thing.
But
like,
just in case.
it's the same thing. Like, just I don't know. You put a song out there about somebody, and it's like getting a tattoo of their name, and then you break up, and it's there forever. Like,
Yeah,
I
but
was
what if you
telling
made
Leo-
millions off of it? It's like
What if you made
I don't
millions
know.
off of
I don't think it'd be worth it.
Kathy?
Millions?
But then what if they
You know
start
the
dating
mission
somebody
tattoo.
else?
You get a tattoo for millions. For millions.
But then it's like, what if they start dating someone else and they're like, that's how you really feel about that person, or that's how you felt about that. It's
But
just, I don't know, it's
I'm a
weird.
millionaire. Don't
But-
you love me more?
Yes, I
I'm
don't
ready.
know.
I'm good to support, to provide,
It's just
protect,
weird.
the whole deal.
I believe you. I believe you believe that.
I believe
Yeah.
he believes it too.
But believe me, I would Reese, and Kathy.
Oh my
Reese and
goodness,
Kathy
that'd
for
be funny.
life.
If I had $1 million,
For
I'd
if
just
someone gave me
buy
$1
it.
million, I would
Yeah.
tattoo anyone's name. Maybe not like Satan's
Yeah, that would be
name
bad.
or any of his names. But anyone else?
That
yeah.
escalated quickly.
Carvana.
Crap bag. Like
Carvana.
Carvana.
Carvana, yeah. I would get the
Kiyamana?
logo. Yes. I would get every wrong name someone's called me and then like $1 million sign.
Funny. Just all the Starbucks
Yes.
names that have been on the
Yes.
cups.
Yes.
Just like,
But honestly, I lost all of my rings, my wedding ring and my engagement ring. So I get what you're saying.
Are you serious?
Like lost?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Elisha took my engagement ring out of my nightstand at one point, and I don't know where it is now. It's been gone for. Anyway, so I was telling Gio that I'm gonna have to pull one of those woke pastor things and like get like a
tattoo.
G
Oh,
tattooed on my
yeah.
finger so people know that I'm married.
I would love that for you though.
Yeah.
Aw.
Right?
And
And
get
then
it. Or you could put
Yeah.
Reese.
For $1
if you
million
give me
bucks.
$1
my
million,
goodness, for $1
I will
million.
put Reese, and Gio will be okay with it.
oh my goodness.
I said, guys, don't joke about this.
Yeah, I'm
I
just
really
like,
mean
oh,
it,
gee, I'm glad I don't have that kind of money. So it'd just be weird.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness. What happened?
Uncle Jesse.
I feel like I'm dizzy.
I'm ashamed to pick John Krasinski, but I
Why?
have to. Only because I think like when I was watching The Office, I was like in love
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah, he's so funny too.
Yeah. But I do love John. I want to pick John Stamos because he's like a classic.
Yeah. I don't
And I
think
think
John
he's still
Krasinski is
good.
that funny. That's bad, right? Probably.
It's
I
not-
think he's.
I think Steve Carell is hilarious.
I think he's
Carell's
hilarious.
And I've
Yeah.
seen some of the other characters funny, but I think he's a face. And I'm like, I think he deserves money, but I'm like, he's whatever to me.
I think he just seems like he's like that average Joe that just shows up to work, but I don't know. It's kind of like that personality that I'm like, oh, I kind of like that, you know?
Dwight's funny, whatever his real
Yeah.
name is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I feel like John Krasinski seems fun. Like he's like just like a funny person. Like in a conversation, he'll just say
Yes.
funnier things that you're just like,
Yeah.
ha ha ha. And you like laugh your way through the combo. And then one day you confess your love for him.
Oh my goodness.
Love that.
you've made me laugh for so many years.
He's right here.
Oh my goodness.
J. I thought you said G.
It was a misprint.
Okay, this is weird. Joe Jonas or Joseph Jordan-Levitt?
Gordon.
Oh, Gordon.
Gordon.
know any
Yeah,
of these
Joseph.
guys?
Yes,
Joseph
Joseph
Gordon-Levitt.
Gordon-Levitt. The only reason why I would choose him, well,
You
one,
would
Nick
choose
Jonas
Joseph
is the better
Gordon-Levitt?
Jonas, so it's like Joe Jonas has to go.
Whoa.
Yes.
Okay.
I would choose the Joseph guy because he was in, 10 Things I Hate About
500
You?
Days of Summer. Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
and I love
he was
that
so
movie.
little.
Wow.
Reese,
Yes,
that is
I
why I,
love that
picked him
movie.
too.
Yes, okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry.
Literally,
I'm
that
serious.
movie.
I literally,
like-
10 Things About You, Heath Ledger,
Yeah.
Yes.
Skinny Girl,
Heath
whatever
Ledger.
her name. I'm blanking
Okay,
out her name right
exactly.
now. So good. One of the greatest one of the last rom-coms ever written.
Yeah.
So good.
And it was like a good
was
one. Like
literally-
and it wasn't just like following all the, your classic rom-com thing of like this person is in love with someone and then that's why I hate
It's
rom-coms.
based off of Taming of the
Yes.
Shrew from Shakespeare. It's
Yes.
amazing.
I love that's why that movie made me love Heath Ledger.
Aw.
Like that was like the Heath Ledger movie.
Yes.
For me is Patriot.
R.I.P.
That's my favorite
Wow.
movie.
I
I
like
love
it. I've
my
only
favorite
really
movie is
seen
Patriot.
Incredible
like-
movie.
Or A Knight's Tale. I've only really seen
Knight's
his
Tale's
rom com.
fire.
Yeah, Knight's Tale.
No. Knight's Tale is
Knight's Tale.
And
fire.
the girl, the girl that's in it looks like
Christina Cologne.
Yep.
She's
Yes,
beautiful.
beautiful,
Tattoo
all around.
Yeah, I would.
Christina.
Heath Ledger,
and
Christina
girl
Can
from
you
Cologne.
Next
like
Door.
write these names down so you remember?
I will do all of it.
Nobody picks Joe Jonas? Which of the Jonas brothers would you kick out?
Him. Well, I don't know
Joe?
the other ones. I just know Nick, and that's the
I
only one
will
I care
say
about.
there
would-
was a rumor.
That's the only one I care about.
When I was younger,
my
that
friend.
like there was a rumor that the Jonas Brothers did fine arts, and I don't know if it's real or not.
It's not a rumor, it's real.
Okay,
they did.
so
Oh,
then
wow.
I picked
Yeah.
Joe Jonas, not because I care that much about
they
fine
And they
love
arts.
won
fine
every
arts.
year, and they would
'Cause
have
I'm
like a little
obsessed.
that, and there was a little country band, and they would come and they would just do
Really?
it. Yeah, they were AG.
Because their dad was an
Yeah.
AG pastor.
And they
I
would-
think.
What?
They were three little brothers,
know
and they would
that.
just come and sing. But then eventually they got famous, and they were like, "Bye."
Yeah. that's
I might
sad.
get rid of Joe only because he, out of all the Jonases, maybe
Including the one
Well, I
that
don't
they don't
know.
let in the band.
Kevin. Oh, the fourth one.
What?
I don't know.
He's
They're
a
all
little
just so
Uggs
like
compared to the other three.
Maybe that's why they don't let him in.
they're all just so like anti-Christian with a vengeance now that I'm
Yeah.
like
We kick them all
Really?
out.
by
Wow.
yeah, just because I'm like okay, I get it, but like just I don't know.
I will say though, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in a movie like about like he was playing a guy who's a Christian. He's like a husband and a father who's like addicted to porn.
What
was, like,
movie?
Never. Yeah.
10 Things I Hate About You?
John
Joe versus porn.
John something
Joe
or
versus
so-
porn.
but like he was in a movie about
Joe
that.
versus the Pornado.
Oh my god, cult classic.
No. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't pick him because of that.
But did you guys see 500 Days of Summer? Because that is a really good movie too.
No.
It's like sad though, right? I can't remember.
Yeah,
It's
I
sad.
only saw it like once. It was like too
Yeah.
much. So then I just put into things I hate about you. But I really did think I really love that movie. I think
Yes,
it was
the
also
movie's
in
amazing.
like
Was he in
So,
Inception?
He was
whatever
in
rock
Inception.
from the
Inception.
sun.
Yeah. Or was
yeah.
he?
He was in
Yeah.
that little.
Inception, Looper, Snowden. Have you seen that
Yeah,
one?
I
he
didn't
had
see
he had his
Snowden.
he had his time to shine,
time.
like his glory, his glory.
His
days.
glory was 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure.
For sure.
for sure.
For sure.
For sure.
I
I was
still
saying
pick
that.
Joe
That's
Jonas. For sure.
Jennifer Hudson or Jennifer Lawrence?
Jennifer Hudson.
He's
Why?
like Jennifer.
Jennifer Hudson. Well,
You keep her.
I would keep her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like Oscar winning, Grammy winning. She's like can sing, beautiful.
Yeah.
Like she's incredible. Literally, she can do
Jennifer
everything.
Lawrence didn't win anything?
She won Best Actress as an Oscar, so like kudos. Like you know, that's not that hard to do.
Not as much as I've
but
won.
it's right.
Yeah.
No, not as 3. I'm
not as
gonna
much
go
as
into it right
Emily
now.
Blunt.
I picked,
No, but
Oh my
Jennifer
goodness.
Hudson.
I picked Jennifer Hudson too, but I really don't like Jennifer Lawrence. The first time I ever saw her on screen was in that one of the X-Men movies, and she played the little.
Oh, okay.
The blue girl?
Yeah, what's the blue
Mystique.
girl? She played the
Yeah,
little
yeah.
Mystique, and she
Yeah.
was Rebecca Romaine Stamos, Uncle Jesse's wife
Yes.
Yeah.
at the time.
It all goes
So
back
she played
to
the
that.
little
Yeah.
with her big old forehead, and I'm like, you're not Rebecca Romaine Stamos. Get out of there.
Yeah.
And I was so offended that they picked her to play this lady. I was like, I don't like you. And then I've heard her talk, and she's like, yeah, you don't need school. I'm a dropout. Look at me. And she
Yeah.
just kind of grosses
Yeah.
me out. She
She-
kind of, I don't know, just I could smell her.
And she like
Through the TV.
She's just like got a trailer trash mouth. Like it's really really bad. I don't know if I should have said that. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to all the trailers
To the trailer.
and those that
hate
have trash.
Yes.
So.
Man, after
I mean, can you
After all
even?
that,
I don't even know if I'm allowed to pick Jennifer Lawrence now.
Oh man.
I guess Jennifer Hudson's good, right? I feel like people. How did she get famous? For American Idol?
American Idol, then she was
Then
kicked out, and then Dreamgirls.
Dreamgirls.
She got the Oscar and the nomination for Dreamgirls.
But does she
sings
makes
everything.
her own music now?
She is
Like, what would she
Aretha
have sang?
Franklin. She was Aretha and Aretha Franklin. She does a lot of like Oscar
She, like,
movies.
acts and
musicals too. She won a
no
Grammy
idea.
for she like an
Chris
album.
King
like,
doesn't like her.
I think that's
That's
why
what
I
it
didn't
is.
want to pick
He's
her.
like, she doesn't like because he's just like, and he goes, I like her. I can hear him arguing, just like Chris says Beyonce's ugly.
Okay.
But it's just
Oh
that
my
same
goodness.
That's
conversation.
absurd. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But he was like, it's just that she could only do one thing. And I'm like, she does the one thing amazingly. Like Jennifer Hudson
Honestly,
could
that's
sing.
probably
Yeah, for
where my
real.
hesitation. I was like, there's something wrong with Jennifer Hudson, but I think
I
it
don't
is
know
that
what
Chris
it
doesn't
is.
like
Chris
her. Yeah. So I'll pick.
But people like Jennifer Lawrence.
I don't know.
I think she's
Yeah.
people like her a lot.
Hunger Games.
Hunger
was
Games.
I was
great.
gonna say I really like
Katniss is
Hunger
great.
Games, but I only
Yeah.
watched like the first one.
She goes,
I really like it, but
I'm hungry right now. I feel like I'll pick Jennifer Hudson because yes, Jennifer Lawrence. She's like all I know about her is that she's kind of like woke in a way, or like kind of like break the fourth wall. Like I'm only look like this because they put makeup on me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then it's like aggressive at times.
even though she
So
got a
I'm
lot
like,
of plastic surgery.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't
there's
know
like
her?
there's like a before and after.
I didn't know that.
Like
She's only like 2 years old.
yeah. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't
I
say
don't
a
pick
lot,
her anymore. I just never.
But
I never picked.
she
You hate it.
Yeah.
she did go through like procedures. You know what I mean? Like some of the
have no
other girls.
idea.
Yeah. So I'm just like
The other girls.
yeah.
You
some of
said
the
you
other
didn't know
girls,
a lot
I don't-
about celebrities. How do you
He's
know
like,
this?
You know,
she
10
lives
Because-
at 8
Heath
seasons.
Ledger,
because-
George-
okay, this is the only
The
reason why.
Jonas. He
Okay.
knows which one is kicking out.
This is honestly legitimately the reason. Like because when I heard about these two people, I didn't know who either of them were.
Oh my gosh! So
They
you
did a
looked
paper.
up Wikipedia entries.
So I looked. I'm like, who are these people? Because I just don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've just never cared about celebrities. Not in like I don't like.
How dare you, Reese?
Not like them as people. Just I've never been starstruck. I've cared. They're just people that make a bunch of money.
How dare you be
You know?
like logical?
I don't
Miracle
know.
is
It's just
built
what
on
it is.
celebrities.
I don't know. I'm just like I don't know. So I don't know anything about them. So I had to look some things up. So I'm like, but
I
even
want to
then-
look her up right now, and I want to see the plastic surgery she's had.
I mean, I don't know. Her whole shtick is like to not get plastic surgery, though, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
I
that's the whole thing.
I don't know.
So if you know her, there's you guys at home. You see plastic surgery. I
No.
need you to
Maybe it was an
watch this,
unreliable
post
source.
us, tag
Let
us,
us know.
let us know.
Add us.
Wow.
Did you
Why
pick
should be like
someone?
a complete other person?
I
I
don't
know,
think Reese
geez.
picked anyone.
So is that
He
a
just
unanimous
exposed
Jennifer
Yeah,
Hudson?
sorry. I'll pick Jennifer Hudson just because.
The group
She's
did
more
it.
natural.
Yeah, just because everyone else picked her. I don't
Okay.
know. I genuinely have no
She
idea.
thinks that you're gonna love me.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that song.
I'll pick that girl from.
Yeah, okay, I'll pick her for that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll pick her
She
again.
needs my approval.
I'll pick her
J
twice.
Hud, you have it. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna continue the conversation. This episode is entitled PORN, porn. So we're gonna be getting a little bit raw, and we're gonna be sharing our stories and just kind of commenting on the subject, and just kind of discussing it in an open space, open table. I do know a lot of churches or a lot of people accuse churches of not discussing things that actually go on in this world, that things people struggle with. And
Yeah.
I love our church. I love our community, because we're like, no, like we want to talk about it. We want to, expose things and bring light to certain issues, and hopefully restore and bring healing and encouragement, and bring correction wherever. So we're going to talk about this topic, and everything it, entails, and how it affects the heart, the mind, the soul, and Jennifer Hudson. So I'm going to read Benito. I don't know. She needs prayer too. You don't know.
You know?
We're gonna begin the conversation. I'm gonna just kind of read down some statistics about pornography. I may step at some point because it may be a little bit too much and I may start crying. But
sad.
here are some stats concerning pornography, any pornographic content that exists. Here we go. Up to 65% of young adult men and 18% of young women report viewing at least pornography once a week, though this number can be much higher. The median age, which is the average age of the first exposure to pornography, is now only 14 years old. And as many as 93.2% of boys and 62.1% of girls first see porn before they turn 18. Early exposure to porn is correlated with increased porn use and addiction later in life. According to the National Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families, 2010, 47% of families in the United States reported that pornography is a problem in their home. 47%.
Almost half.
That's
Almost
half
half
of families
of America.
are
that
say
crazy?
that pornography is a problem in their home. Pornography use increases the marital infidelity rate by more than 300%. So
That's crazy.
basically,
Luis Santo.
they're saying that the more and more people view porn, the more people are likely to have an affair.
Yeah.
And the probability of that happening is 300%, which that's almost the same number as I think the increase of porn increase since quarantine since 2020.
Yeah.
Because it was out there, went up that much. Here we go. 40 million United States adults regularly visit porn sites. 10% of U.S. adults admit to having an addiction to porn. 17% of all women struggle with porn addiction. 20% of men and 13% of women admit to accessing porn while at work.
What a risk. Like it
For
must be
real.
that, like, you could get fired. But
Yeah.
it's that, intense.
70% of women admit to keeping their cyber activity secret. 70%.
Seems right.
1 of 3 visitors of all adult websites is a woman. 1 of 3. Women favor chat rooms 2 times more than men, which is kind of crazy. Kind of not.
I mean, it's like
want-
biological though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, let's talk about it.
Yeah, they want more of like, the
Some kind of interaction.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas guys are just very visual. It's
Also,
like,
I
you just
venture to
see
say
this.
that 4 out of the 5 women in the chat room are actually men. Like,
Wow.
Oh wow.
I would probably venture to say something.
That'd
like
be
that.
interesting to see.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's a good point.
When I remember like just being on chat rooms and like the thing that I would like, I just don't want to talk to a guy. So like anything that I could
Yeah.
do to like try to like confirm that this person that I'm talking to is a girl, and like most of the time it just was not. So I'm like, all right, on to the next person.
Wow.
Like
I would have never
it's like
thought.
Yeah.
a dark
I guess it
world.
makes
That's
sense, especially because there's probably a lot of predators. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, the safest thing to do is pose as a woman.
yeah, I don't know.
Creepers,
That's
folks.
crazy.
We're not even in the
We're
conversation
not
yet.
even done.
I'm just
The intro.
Yeah.
Barna study found. Do you guys want to talk about Heath Ledger again?
I love Heath Ledger.
Heath,
man.
Jesus, help him. I mean, not. I don't know. Help his
Well,
family.
yeah,
Yes.
his family.
Anyways, he's dead. We could help
Yeah.
him, but he's dead. So there's no more
That's
point in
why.
praying for him. It wasn't like don't help him. Have to make sure. 2016 Barna study found that teens and young adults view not recycling as more immoral than viewing pornography. So it is worse.
That's crazy.
To not recycle, so
angering,
not put
right.
like my bottle in the little bin or not make sure we don't get the straws at Starbucks. That is more immoral than viewing pornography.
Wow. That's crazy.
Survey responses: 88% stealing, 56% not recycling, and 32% viewing porn. 41% of males practicing Christians and 13% of females practicing Christians. So 41% of male Christians, 13% of female Christians, ages 13 to 24, are actively seeking porn at least once or twice a month. So that is 40% probably of our audience, of our demographic right now, watching us right now, saying 41% of the guys and 13% of the girls are actively seeking porn,
which is
once or twice.
All of these stats too are only who would admit to it on a survey.
Of course.
So they're all way higher.
Yeah.
You know.
This is an issue that has touched nearly everyone listening to this.
Yeah.
Literally, my stomach like every time I'm just like,
You're like, am I on a roller coaster?
Yeah.
like just reading
Am I
through
riding
all
the
these.
teacups? Yeah.
Okay, so let's begin this. Either Reese or Izzy, you guys can answer this question first. Do you remember the first time pornography was introduced to you? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the first time, I think every guy can remember an account like exactly what was happening the first time they watched porn. Like everyone I've ever talked to, they're like, I can clearly visualize that moment, no matter how long ago it was. And I think that kind of just testifies to just how damaging it is to our mind. But yeah, I remember exactly when it was. I was in, fourth grade or fifth grade, and I remember. I didn't grow up in a Christian home, so I just remember not learning that pornography or sexual impurity was a bad thing. And for me, one of my dad, one of his early careers was photography. He was a professional photographer, and he did things like racing, and he was published in magazines. But one of the things that he shot was like naked portraits. And so you could literally walk to my house and there would just be pictures of nude women on the wall.
Wow.
And so that was just normal to me. I grew up like that. I'm like, oh, there's nothing wrong with this. And I got to this point, we got a computer and I just wanted to explore that. And I figured I could probably find something like this, online. And I thought, sensuality was something to be exploited.
Right.
And so I started watching pornography in fifth grade, and then it quickly snowballed into a genuine addiction where it's nothing else really came close to this desire that I had to watch porn. I would spend nights, in secret, throughout the night watching pornography. If, my parents left the house, I would, want to stay home to watch porn. And it was something that I dealt with throughout middle school and high school, and then it escalated to actually wanting to act upon those fantasies. And so, in middle school, I started becoming sexually involved with, some of the girls I went to school with. It's I didn't care who it was. There was no emotional connection. It was just let me just get this from you. Right. So it's a lot of manipulation, a lot of trying to meet different people that would be willing to do whatever it was. And so it turned into a physical experience after that. Then in high school, it just escalated from there. I got into a pretty destructive relationship, and it's crazy. I don't know how real you want me to get.
I don't know. If it gets too real, we will edit you down. We'll edit out.
I don't think it's too bad.
Andre, cut.
I just want it to be, I just want to be, whatever.
No. Thank you. Thank you for respecting that. But
Okay.
just feel free, and then if we have to go back, then add a disclaimer.
Yeah. So
It's for adults to watch.
Yeah.
Well, I dated this girl throughout high school, and it was pretty much just a sexual relationship. I really she started off as a friend of mine, but she was really popular, and everyone wanted to date her, so I went for it, and I started dating her. And after a while, my pornography addiction was so, I guess, evident that I didn't even want to have sex with her anymore. I would rather watch porn than actually have sex with this girl. And it literally, I remember this so clear. This one day, like we were in this, like we were fighting, like arguing, and she literally told me, she was like, any guy wants to have sex with me, and you can and you won't. And at the time, like I had no idea that it had anything to do with my pornography addiction. But like once you like learn about how it affects the brain, it's understandable like why that happens. So I didn't get saved until I was 20 years old, and that was when I didn't even need like a preacher to tell me sex was bad or pornography was bad. Like I just remember, just going about my routine of daily pornography use. And then after I started going to church, I started to feel like, wait, there's something wrong with this.
Wow,
like
that's
this
crazy.
is not right.
Yeah.
But I kind of just was like, kind of shrugged it off in like an awkward sense until I started to learn, like, started to read the Bible, and I started to like learn that what sexual impurity was. And then from there, it's like the damage had been done. And so from that point on, it was literally like a fight and a battle to try to gain freedom. And it took a few years before I actually, could. But that's kind of the way that it progressed for me.
Wow.
That's insane because we recently had like a Q&A session at Extreme, and I was telling her that, I've been at those like for a million years, and all the questions tend to be the same or whatever. But like this year, it really stuck out to me how like they're all anonymous. The kids can ask anonymous questions. None of the questions really had to do with like physical relationship boundaries. Like, oh, me and my girlfriend. Oh, me and my boyfriend. A lot of the questions had to do with sexual things online. A lot of it had to do with porn. A lot of it had to do with I'm by myself. Why can't I watch this, do this? And it's crazy because obviously all of us are a little bit the age where like we probably still had dial-up at one point in our house, maybe, right? But then like high schoolers were born with phones in their hand. They saw it at 8 years
whole
old,
new world.
5 years old.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's why one of the statistics where it's like the average age is 14. I was like, that sounds high to me.
I know. I'm like, you have to be including like
I'm not
Amish
saying,
people
like,
who
it's
never
not
see
the
it.
average,
Yeah, because
but-
that's pretty old in
Like,
my opinion.
For me, I was 11 and like I didn't have a phone. Like
Right.
I had to go to like a desktop, like
Right.
in the other room in the middle of the night. Like,
Yeah.
and so now I just feel like, man, that's age has to be like much lower now, But for me, my home life was pretty normal. Like it wasn't like, I mean, it was abnormal in the sense that my parents were pretty open about talking about sex and sexual topics, but it was okay. Like sex was not a taboo in my home, but we didn't have naked pictures like hanging on our walls. But I was not curious because of the conversations that I had with my parents. Like there was days where I would just stay up late at night watching TV, and it was cable TV, not like streaming or like HBO or anything like that. It was just literally cable TV. And maybe, I don't know, 11:30 or 12 o'clock at night or something like that, commercials would start coming on for like Girls Gone Wild or like all those commercials. And I would just like watch them, but like I would just watch them, and then the next day would happen and just watch them over and over, like at night. And you're just saying they would come on like all like every 15, 20 minutes, like there you go, like another commercial. And then one night I was just like, and it on their commercial, it's almost like one of the TV ad that we have for the Better Marriage Conference. If you do it now,
call the
do it now
number.
call the number or visit
So crazy.
this website. And like they had a website, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go check it out. So then I went to the desktop and I just checked it out, and like that was it for me. I remember like my parents, like a couple weeks later, like they saw like history, like the history on it, and they came to me and they were like, hey, we need to talk to you. I'm like, what's up? And they're like, what's this website? And I'm like, oh, I don't know.
It's a virus.
So and they're like, well, it's not okay. I was like, no, but it wasn't me. It was my cousin. We were. This is the story. I'll never forget. I was
Really
11.
under the
And I
bus.
can still like remember.
Yeah.
He's like, what did I do?
We were on our way home from school. We got off the bus and we saw a paper on the ground on the road, and we just picked it up and we saw it had this website. So like he told me to go check it out. So I checked it out, and that's all it was. And so she was like,
It's
okay, well, I'm
crazy.
gonna call your aunt. And I'm like,
no,
don't do that.
I take it back.
I think but I do remember that kind of being how it started for me. I was in 7th grade. I don't remember like my friends really talking about it all that much, or like that being a thing. I do know, like, I don't know, because of the songs, the music that you guys would talk about, there's always jokes about girls and all that stuff. But in terms of like, I was watching this video or I was on this website. It wasn't like that. But I just kept going. I just learned how to delete, the history, and I just kept going back, and it just, or like at first, but this, I don't even know what this is. You can edit this out. Maybe it's a detail that unnecessary, but like I would go, and because before I didn't know how to delete the history, I would try to find like websites that started with letters that were like uncommon. So like I didn't want to start with like, I don't know, like a P or an M. I was like, what websites do my parents go to? Like I'll look at a list and I'm like, okay, I don't want websites I don't want to go on websites that start with those letters, because like if they hit that letter, then the history is going to pop up.
Wow.
And so I'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. And like I would at 11, 12, like that's something that's a lot.
I feel like pornography does that though. Like immediately it's wrong, even though no one tells you, and then you become, someone said this at Extra, like you become like this like IT guy. Like as soon as, because you get to hide it, to access it, whatever you need to do, you'll do.
Yeah.
Okay, why do you think this is such a hard topic to talk about?
Oh Lord, outside of it being something that you do on your own, the things that you find online are just so like dark, and and then the thing is, so like sexual sin, porn, like it's an insatiable like sin. Like whatever,
it's never be satisfied.
It'll never be enough. So like whatever was good enough yesterday is not good enough today. And so that's why like it doesn't surprise me that infidelity goes skyrocket, although like we're already being like unfaithful when we lust upon them. Not only that, but then like actually acting out on our infidelity. It doesn't surprise me, because it's like eventually like just watching it is not enough, and you have to act on it. I remember, I'll never forget, like when I was like unfaithful first, not before I came back to the Lord. It was like a threshold that I crossed, that like after I crossed it, it was like not even like a moral dilemma for me. It's like, I'm with this person, but then I'm also like online, like talking to other people, trying to meet with other people. It's like, it's just never enough. So the things that you find online, like searching for the thing that's going to excite you again. And then you come across something that you never saw, and be like, oh wow, I didn't know that existed, or oh, I didn't know people did that, or I didn't know, and it like you find yourself in these like, just so dark, and like things that you don't even want to imagine, and then you're there, but you're like it, right? Like it's the only thing in the moment that's really like satisfying. And then you're done, and so then when you go to the altar, you're like, I watched porn. It's like, okay, but you don't ever hear a person go, but I watched porn and I liked it when I saw this, and it was and that is like, that's really shameful when you're like, man, I liked when I saw this, and it's so dark and so like out of left field that you're like, you just don't ever want to talk about it, you don't want to admit it, you feel so like not only is porn just shameful in it of itself, but then also what like the actual content that you're come across, like it's not plain Jane, like that doesn't excite anymore, and that's not enough.
I think it's not a difficult conversation like in the world, because like when I was growing up, like we used to have competitions to see who would watch more porn, and like it was a joke, like it was like, oh, I'm gonna go watch porn, guys, like. So and even today, like I've seen, and like I know I said I don't care about celebrities, but like I've done a lot of research about this topic since, the time that I had started trying to figure out how to break free of it. And there's celebrities and people out there that have this massive influence that are like, yeah, I watch porn all the time. Like, I don't need a man. I don't need a woman. Like, it's good for you. True. So I feel like in the world, like, no one's really ashamed of pornography. But in the church, there is so much shame because, like Izzy was saying, like, I guess maybe I can't say this, but it seems like, if someone's struggling with like a habitual lying addiction or something like that, like nobody likes that. Yeah. They're like, I want to give, but like people actually like porn. So it's like, I like this, but I also want to be a Christian. So there must be something wrong with me. And I don't want other people to view me as less than that. Like, I don't want my pastor to think that I'm like this disgusting person. Like, I don't want my friends to not want to be friends with me anymore and go find other people to hang out with. And then I'll be alone. And, I don't want to tell the person that I'm dating because, like, what if they break up with me because they don't want to extend that grace to me that I need to help me? Yeah. And so I feel like it's kind of like in church, it's like we don't talk about porno. you know, and I'm
sense.
glad at this church it's not like that, you know,
Yeah.
because we're always talking about stuff like that,
Yeah.
especially like every February. But a lot of churches, it's like, no, we'll talk about everything else but that. Like,
Yeah,
we're not going
that's
to talk about that.
crazy.
We're not going to talk about homosexuality. We're not going to talk about things,
Yeah.
you know, that's plaguing the congregation because it's just a very touchy, difficult subject.
Yeah.
You know?
I think
crazy.
I think too, like especially at our church, right? Like we have a really healthy environment to talk and a healthy space to talk about these topics, but still people struggle with it. So like
Yeah.
talking about it is not really the issue here. And so really the issue why it's so hard to really talk about, it's not because I watched it, it's like I don't know how to like get over this.
Yeah.
I just and
Yeah.
like nothing
That's
seems
good.
to
Right.
like work. I go to the altar.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pray. Like nothing. I got accountability or whatever. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. There are things. All those things work. But like when you don't know how to put the pieces together, you're trying to do the things that you think you're supposed to be doing, but then it doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
So then,
Yeah.
like, how do you? It's like, okay, I confessed once, but then, like, I gotta confess to you again. I gotta confess to
Right.
you like 10 times in the last 2 weeks. Like
Yeah.
that. Then it becomes like, okay, I'll confess to you the one time, and I'll wait
Right.
for.
It's like you're tired. I'm
I'm
tired of
I
this.
just can't. I can't stop confessing. I can't
Yeah.
stop like talking about
Yeah, it's a
how I can't
process,
get
though.
over this. It is.
It's-
I'm simply saying, like, why is it so hard?
Yeah.
That's why.
People
or like,
give
what's
up.
a
'Cause they're
reason?
just-
why?
They're
Exactly.
sick.
It's like-
They're like, it's been too long. I can't, you know.
Yeah.
And so they stop
For sure.
fighting.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we'll come back to kind of, we're about to go down that path. I'm going to bring it back a little bit. Okay, so how did pornography affect your mind? How did it affect your relationships?
So I'm gonna start with mine first. I kind of want to like separate the two because it's a lot. But I guess cut me off at any time. Personally, how it affected my mind. The stronger the addiction became in my life, the more I would isolate myself from other people. And it wasn't at first I wasn't saved, so it wasn't isolation out of shame. It was like, this is running my life. Like, I need to get this fixed. It's, you know, like when I was in high school, like I was addicted to pain medication and I took a lot of drugs. And it's like, I would compare that addiction to pornography the same way of when I would
yeah.
take drugs. It's like, it doesn't matter if I have a test tomorrow. It doesn't matter if there's something crazy going on in my family. It doesn't matter if like someone just died. If I don't get this fixed, that's all I care about right now.
But in your brain, it's dopamine
Yeah.
high. Like it's
Yeah.
the same. It reacts the same brain.
Exactly.
Like, proven
But
it
when
is.
you put it in the terms of a drug addiction, I don't
Well,
know. There's,
that's what research is starting to show. Like
yeah.
research is now, because the thing is like pornography, internet pornography is new. You know, it's a
Yeah,
novelty.
yeah.
It's been around for 20 years. Like it's, when you think about it, it's crazy that you could literally see more naked people doing sexual things in 30 seconds than anyone in human history has ever seen in their lifetime. You know, it really is like, and I think
yeah,
about
it's
when,
like-
when Paul's saying like when he's talking about, you know, sexual impurity and that you must rid yourself of that, like there is no way that he had in mind
Right.
that people were going to be watching hundreds and
2022.
thousands of people watching porn for hours at a time online.
Yeah.
There's no way he could have recognized that. Obviously the Holy Spirit, you know,
Right,
was
right,
aware,
right.
but still
But,
like there's
yeah.
no way, you know what I mean? So, and with the whole brain thing, like there is a dopamine rush that happens every time you consume pornography, and it's so extreme that it actually has the ability to start creating new neural pathways in your mind and rewire your brain. It's a process. It's called what is it? It's neuro something. I don't know. That's not the point. Either way, it's this
asking the wrong
process.
people.
I don't know
yeah.
the thing, but I know that neurotransmitters, it
Brain
creates new.
science. Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, it's
Keep going. You're-
basically-
yeah, like
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's basically this thing where your brain, and it's apart from pornography, it's actually very healthy. It's where your brain is able to adapt and learn new things based off of experiences. So, for example,
yeah.
if I can recall what it is, I'll bring it back because it's like really bothering me that I can't. But it's basically this ability that your brain has where when you learn a new experience, you're able to store that, and then, you know, down the road in the future, if you haven't done it for a really long time, you're able to pick it back up. So people refer to it as like muscle memory. It's not anything to do with your muscles, but it's basically like when you learned how to ride a bike, you could go 20 years without riding a bike, and then you can get back on it and start riding again.
Yeah.
Like that's a good thing when it's a healthy experience. But the problem is the same thing happens when you give it an unhealthy or negative stimulus. For example,
Yeah.
pornography. It's such a consuming, and repetitive and chemically rewarding process that your brain forms the same new neural pathways to basically tell your mind that this is more important than actual instinctual biological processes. So for example, there's even more pornography dumped in your, or more dopamine dumped in your mind when you're watching porn than when you're eating food. And so your brain literally can create these new neural networks that say, like, it's more important for you to eat or to watch porn than it is to eat, which is just, it's insane. So it literally takes complete control of your mind.
Yeah.
And I saw that happening in my life. It's like nothing else mattered until I get my fix. It doesn't matter what's going on. Like, I have to do this, and that's why people stay up for hours at a time watching porn. Even when you get to that point where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, you still do it.
Doing it.
Because it's like your mind literally, like, you can't say no.
Yeah, because you're an addict.
Wow.
Exactly.
And it's hard to process that or to even admit that about yourself.
And it's like, there's another thing that happens too, like, this term I actually remember, it's called hypofrontality. And it's basically when your prefrontal cortex, which is, the part of your brain that is with decision making, right? So like, that's what, when, for example, if you had like a test tomorrow and your friends wanted to go out, your reward center is saying, let's go out and let's go do this. Who cares about the test? But your prefrontal cortex is like, no, we have to go home and study and go to bed. We can't do that. And so there's this constant battle in your mind between the ability of your prefrontal cortex and your reward center. But what happens is with hypofrontality, when your mind dumps this amount of dopamine into your brain, it can actually start to limit the ability for your prefrontal cortex to actually override your reward center. So you literally no longer can make that decision to say no.
Yeah.
Because it's just such a strong, powerful response. And new research is actually showing, like, people that are getting their brains scanned after like heavy consumption of pornography, it's showing that there's actually diminished
less activity.
Yes, in their prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
So they literally, you can't choose to say no. And that's why so many people are so frustrated. It's like, why can't I break free of this? Why can't I do this? Why? And it's because in some sense, physically, you don't have the ability to until you add in the spiritual component, which I guess we'll get to later.
We'll get to in a second.
Yeah. So it's just crazy what your mind does.
I hope so.
It's mush.
I'm sorry.
I know, but
I think that's the problem. It's mush.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's what Billie Eilish came out recently and said, my brain is mush because I've been addicted to it.
Right.
This other comedian, which is blanking, my name is blanking out too. It's a British comedian. He's been speaking out against pornography for a long time. Like, there's been a lot of women movements against pornography because it does create this abuse towards women because it's not, and it's not, like, it's not just, ooh, sexy. No, it's like this power struggle, abuse towards women. And it has led the way to a lot of women being in abusive relationships. Like, a lot of battered women, it literally, the person who beat them is addicted to pornography because it's this power struggle. So like, there's a lot of advocates against it, but it's also been very normalized. And so you hear it in jokes. It's like, this is normal. This is healthy. This is good. There's a lot of statistics out there that literally like
you should watch
teen sex is down.
Yeah.
So people are like, but pornography, like oral sex, same sex, it's all up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's just because of the way our brains are being wired, and that's why there are certain things that we're like, it's okay, it's fine as this, but we've rewired what God wired.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And now we're here.
And it's very, and I think, this is, everyone, like every generation has that thing, like this is that thing for our generation. And like you said with women, like the girls that I've known who've gone through this, it's crazy because whatever, I just think women have a hard time, but like how it affects them is they end up thinking of themselves as objects.
Yes.
And they end up, like, girls watch pornography and they're like, this is how I'm supposed to have sex.
Yes.
And like, I'm also supposed to look like this girl in this thing. And, it's all of that. So then, there was like an article that came out about like over the past, couple decades of married women kind of coming out, like Christian married women being like, I was under the impression that I had to basically be a porn star for my husband so that he didn't watch porn. And like, so these women who 20 years, 30 years married, that they're like, they didn't even realize they were being abused because they've also seen porn, so they thought, yeah. So it's just crazy. I'm glad we're talking about it.
For me, like in terms of like how it affected my relationships, I don't know a way it didn't affect my relationships. I think porn and like our like continuous like submission to like pornography is really us being addicted to ourselves. Like I'm addicted to what my flesh wants, what it needs, and so like you just consistently like what does my flesh want and need, this is what it is, and then you just practice that like one night over the other, and then eventually like you're incapable of like caring genuinely for others.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean you're not a nice person or that you're like removed from society. It's simply like truly at in the core of your relationships, you're just looking to see like what you can get out of them, even if it's not sexual.
Right.
Like just
everyone's
just your friendships.
transactional, it's
Yes.
consumable, like
Yes.
what can you do for me?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything becomes about me. How can what can I get out of you? How, you know, how can you benefit me in my life? And so really like not just and then outside of the fact that like I would choose to watch porn over hanging out and like spending time with people or like doing things that I should be doing and getting out of the house or family. And so outside of the actual like physical like presence of being or not being in places that I should be, when I was present with people, I could never be genuine with them. I couldn't care actually for them. Like, and I was going to church and we'd be like, we're going to pray for you. And I'm like, you think I prayed for one person? Like, no, outside of like the altar, when I was supposed to be praying for someone at the altar while I myself was struggling with stuff. That's the only time that you could say that I would make the effort to pray for somebody.
Right.
But like, I never took the time out to pray for anybody or care for anybody outside of myself. Like everything I did was to like benefit myself and to better myself or to like, not better myself, to promote, to further myself.
Desires,
And the thing is that like that bled further, like then I get, you know, like I get healing from it or like I get freedom from pornography, but then like this still addiction to myself is still like, it's like there. So then like God not only has to heal me from the addiction or free me from the addiction, right? Amen. Glory, hallelujah. But then now, like in my prayers, like all my prayers are centered around myself and all of the things, how I serve, how you work, and the decisions that you make are all centered around how it benefits me. And then until you spend enough time in the presence of the Lord for the Holy Spirit to be like, hey, like how about you intercede, or how about you fix your eyes on me, and instead of the other way around. And so like even for me, like that was a struggle for me. Like, okay, I got freedom from it, but then I couldn't get myself past myself, like, because I had just trained myself that I matter, my flesh, what I want, when I want it. And so I think it affected all of my relationships before and after. Like I was free from porn, and like the Lord is still healing that part of me. It's teaching me, really, the Lord is teaching me how to care for others, how to put others before myself, how to live that way, because I may have done the actions, but I don't know, like my mind, my heart, my spirit has never been trained in a way that I could successfully do things like that. And so, at least in the past. And so that's been part of the healing too. So it affected all my relationships, like everything became about, and if you couldn't benefit me, then I literally, it's like out of sight, out of mind. Like I don't care. Like when I moved to Miami, people that like weren't instrumental to like my life and me getting better or like whatever, then I just wouldn't talk to them. I wouldn't call them. I wouldn't hang out with them. Like everything just became about me.
There was a guy that I dated, and stopped working. They were just kind of getting into like weird arguments and stuff like that. And we weren't having sex. I was still tithing. I was preaching every Sunday night. And there was one particular sermon. I remember I would finish preaching, and every time I would finish preaching, I would walk off the stage in Goldenrod. He would come up to me and he would hug me, and then just kind of whatever. And there was one particular Sunday night he didn't do that, and I thought it was kind of weird. And then he just got super distant, and then he confessed to me that he had a porn addiction. And of course, I had studied, there's two things that I studied a lot when I was working on my master's degree. It was like same-sex attraction and pornography. I wrote a ton of papers or whatever. So in my mind, I was like, what? Like this is crazy.
Wow.
So then I was like, well, I was like, pray God this, blah, blah, blah. And it was fine. I didn't, I was doing all the right things and whatever. And it would be fine. But every time he just wouldn't let it go. Yeah. And I could get to the point that literally I would try to go talk to him. I would try to just touch him and he would flinch. I would try to talk to him. He couldn't even look me in the eye.
Wow.
You don't understand how that made me feel the fattest, ugliest person that's ever existed in my life.
Yeah.
And I literally felt so gross.
Yeah.
And I was just like, am I not enough? Can we not pray through? Can we not do this to make the relationship work? But it's like every single time I was understanding, that would make him even more mad.
Wow.
And it got super bad. He never hit me. It was never like that, but I felt so rejected. I found myself for the first time in my life being insecure of my appearance because of that.
Wow.
And it was never like, I could just tell he rejected me. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, there was never like premarital sex or sin. It would just be a slight thing. And I would gross him out. And I'm like, I'm freaking Pastor Sonia Figueroa and I'm gross. And it was horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And I had to, come to terms with it. Also, too, couldn't really tell anyone about it because as a pastor, I'm not going to drag his name through the mud.
Right.
Who the heck am I going to talk to? I can't just go, yeah, I'm going to confess to, couldn't. It was horrible. Finally had to, end the relationship and stuff and, move on and blah, blah, blah. But it was just one of those things from the female perspective. It is really crazy. Like, you don't realize how much, when you are not just that, how like you have like Alcoholics Anonymous, and you have Al-Anon for the family members of those that are addicted. Even if you do not struggle with the addiction, if you are in a relationship with someone that does, you don't realize how much that affects your person, your future spouse. Right. Because at the end of the day, he decided that he would rather have his porn than have me.
Right.
Meanwhile, I wasted my time on him. Right. And because people think that, I'll just let it go when it's time, or I'll just this, I'll just whatever. And I'm like, and you can't see straight.
That's a big thing that people think once I'm in a relationship, once I'm married, I won't need this anymore. And it's like, nope, because it's not, none of that is going to look like porn.
Honestly,
newsflash. So yeah,
okay, go ahead.
I was like, newsflash. Like, you still get tempted to watch porn when you get married. Like when you're actively having sex, you still get,
because it's not porn. Like marital. I mean, hopefully in Jesus' name, like it's not porn.
Yeah,
and it doesn't. It's really not at all like porn. So I could see that, but I think sometimes it's that. Well, I'm so frustrated. Mess up so many times. My solution is to find someone, get married, and
But here's the thing, and this came to me because the first year that Kathy and I were dating, that I still struggled with porn that first few months or whatever before I finally like told her like it came out, because I didn't want to tell her because I was afraid like she's not gonna want me anymore. She's not gonna like like that was probably the most amount of grace I've ever seen God extend to me through her. Yeah, was when she was obviously heartbroken, like she was devastated, she was so upset, but she was just like, I'm going to pray for you and we're going to like get through this. Yeah. And that literally blew my mind. Cause like, I'm one of those people that, is like, God hates me. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, what the heck? But, that was one of the thoughts that came to mind. But God put this on my heart when that happened, when I finally told her and everything. It's like it was a scarier thought than, well, I'll just wait till I get married and then I won't have to do this. Like, what if the only reason why you stop watching porn is because you can now have sex? Because now because the thing is, like, pornography is a manifestation of sexual impurity. It's the sin in your heart. Right. Yeah. Like, so you're basically just trading that in for your wife.
Right. Yeah.
And now your sexual fantasies are it's going towards what you're doing to your wife.
Right.
You know, so it's like you might sit there and think like, wow, look at me, like I have conquered porn, like I'm no longer sexually impure. And meanwhile, like you're just treating your wife as if she's, you know, a porno.
Right.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, that's so much scarier.
Yeah.
Because then you don't even know that you're still in sin.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
think you're good because like I'm having sex, I'm married, this isn't sinful. Like no, that still can be sinful.
Yeah. Ooh,
You know?
santo.
And so
Jeez.
yeah.
The-
And so like that's why I'm just like at that point it's like enough is enough. Like
Yeah.
I have to stop this.
Yeah, for like I'll never forget like, and I asked Rachel for permission to like mention this, but like the first couple of months of marriage, I was like the first 2 or 3 months, it was really difficult for me to like desire like Rachel, and I was like right with the Lord, and I was like in the blessing, right? Like the Lord is blessing me, and it was really difficult for me to like find desire because of all of what I have watched for like what was it, like 18, 19 years
Yeah.
of just like watching porn and then acting, and then after a couple of years like acting on it, like, and I was in that life for a couple of years. Like it was hard for me, and not because like I didn't love her, and not because I
Yeah.
wasn't attracted to her, or because I didn't want to. It's simply like I'm okay, like I it's okay, no, maybe later or something like that.
Yeah.
And like, and I kind of be like that, and it's my wife.
Yeah.
And I'm not,
Yeah.
and I wasn't like actively, you know, watching porn or anything like that. It was just because of all of the experiences
Yeah.
that like, it was almost like she was enough. She is enough. But in the moment that I was like having to deal with reconciling,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what my experiences were and like my life now and what God was doing, that moment was, it was like, I need to be able to get over this and like have the Lord like heal me, because
Yeah.
I know that I love my wife, and I know that I find her attractive, and I know that she's enough, and like she does not need to be like
Right.
what I used to watch. She does not
Yeah.
need to
Right.
behave
Yeah.
like this. She does not
Right.
need to perform like this. She does
Yeah.
not need to like do anything like that or be anything that resembles anything from my past. But like my flesh, my brain, like all of that, like told me that like that needed to happen.
Well, because the thing is, women have sex for connection.
Right.
And
Yep.
men have sex for the feeling of it. It's
Yeah.
two totally different
Yeah.
goals. Neither one is right or wrong.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. So then it's just like, even just you feel the rejection because you feel the rejection.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's just like, yeah, I'm not really rejecting you. I'm rejecting this. I'm
Right.
not really sad about this. I'm sad about this. But
Right,
it doesn't
but it doesn't
matter,
matter.
Yeah.
because the result is
Yeah, of
still,
course.
Yeah.
it's so weird.
Yeah.
And there's
You know?
actually a study done back in like the 1900s of, it was like the psychologist, and he was studying like supernormal stimulus, which is just like exactly what it sounds like. It's some sort of stimulus that is not natural. It's above the normal threshold of what should stimulate our minds. And so what he did was he created a fake butterfly that was
gosh, yeah.
oh, you've heard of this?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it was like bigger
got
and more
really excited.
colorful and
Because Reese is so smart. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know what you're
that's
talking about.
hilarious. Yeah. So this butterfly is like made out of cardboard or something, but it was larger and more colorful and more ornate than a natural butterfly. And what he did was like he released a male butterfly and a bunch of females into this enclosure, and the male completely ignored the females and tried to mate with the cardboard butterfly.
Right.
And it's basically the same thing happens with pornography. It's like, because it's such a super normal stimulus, it's like nothing real matters anymore. And that's why like 46% of divorces, one of the biggest reasons is pornography into the marriage. That's why erectile dysfunction for young adults under 30 increased. Yes.
That
Way
article
up.
I read last year.
Yeah,
Yes.
from 5%
Yes.
20 years ago. The correlation is just uncanny. 5% 20 years ago to 26% now. Over a quarter of all men under 30 have erectile dysfunction.
Under 30. That's
Yeah. Under
30,
crazy.
yes.
But it's because 20 years ago in youth group, it'd be like, don't have sex with your girlfriend. And they're like,
Yeah.
no, we want to, you know? And
Yeah.
now it's like,
I can't.
Yeah, the correlation with porn is
yes.
just, it's crazy how that lines up.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to go to the point of saying like it's causation, but still like there's some sort of,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, it's kind of our next question, but the next question I was going to ask you guys is watching pornography really a victimless crime, since it's something you can consume alone?
Yeah, never.
And that's the kind of the
not.
problem. Sex was created between a man and a woman in the context of marriage.
Right.
So you take away marriage, you take away man, you take away woman, you add a screen, you change some things around, and it's like abort, like nothing. It doesn't work. It breaks everything.
Yes.
Our mind is
Yeah.
broken. Our pee is broken. Like it's all messed up
it's
because
true.
it wasn't it wasn't created. I'm at this point, we're just gonna say whatever. It's like it just wasn't created for that context.
Yeah.
That's why God's like, this is the best way. And we're like,
And
no,
you're like,
we
no,
know
that way
better.
sucks.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this by myself with a screen, underground, blah, 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 in the street, under dirt. Like, and we're like, this is what, look at this. And we call it, or the world calls it like, body positivity, and I'm and I kind of want people to comment this too, just like I am embracing my sexuality, and they do this, and it's proud, and young people, our churchgoers, all of them like, oh wow, but this is proud, right? This is good, right? So I want some of you guys to like comment on that, because it was just it's that, but it's like it's so out of the context of what God said, and we're falling apart over here.
Right.
Yeah. Well, good.
No, I was gonna say it's like it. Similar to like just being, you're so addicted to yourself. It's like, okay, look at my body. Like, don't look, let me put it up on Instagram. Like, that's like, we're all so addicted to ourselves. Like, look at my likes and my body, and you show it. You just want people to want it. And like, even think about like, that OnlyFans is like a thing. It's like, is it a victimless crime? No. Or like victimless sin? Absolutely not. Because us supporting it and wanting it is like making these like 17, 18-year-olds like in their home. They don't have to go to LA anymore.
Yeah, they don't need a parental permission slip.
They don't need a parental permission
slip.
They just need a phone to like post themselves on there. And like, and that's also not to mention too, like the sex trafficking and like that goes on. Like, we don't know, like in these videos, how many of these women are being subjected to this kind of thing, not for money or for their personal gain, but because they were forced to be in the kind of in this industry. Like,
yeah, we have a pretty good idea about that actually. Like, one of the largest pornography websites last year in 2020 had 80% of their content removed because it had some form of trafficking, sexual violence, minors, rape, or revenge porn in it. 80%.
That's crazy.
And because there's no way for someone who's viewing it to tell if they're actually watching that, chances are you and I had seen that and contributed to that.
Yeah. Right.
And even if you haven't watched one of those videos that happened to be someone that was trafficked, every time you view that website, their ad revenue goes up, which means it influenced them to want to do it more.
Right.
You know, because you're making them more money. So it's like, it's not victimless. It doesn't matter if you're there. It doesn't matter if what you're experiencing is completely fake and artificial. Yeah. That's a real person on the other side. Yeah. Even if they are consensual behind it, which statistically, most of them really aren't. They're kind of forced into consenting. But even if that were true, like, they're still real people. Right. Yeah. You know, you're still exploiting them.
Lost. Like,
yeah.
And statistically, the third largest way that people are trafficked are through pornography websites. So, sorry, I'm just talking so fast.
Pornographic websites. Yes. No, you're good. No,
it's that part is crazy. So, but even if you were to like get past the trafficking part, like 88% of all porn videos are show some sort of sexual violence towards women. And the crazy part, like, I mean, that's crazy. Don't get me wrong, but the crazier part is that these women are forced to act like they enjoy it.
Right. Yeah.
And so what happens is you have an entire generation of kids that are growing up, and their whole idea of what sex is, because they're not really educated on sex by their parents or by their pastors or by whoever it is, their whole idea of sex comes from porn, and all they see is, wow, look at this woman getting abused and she likes it. Let me go do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why you see trend in a lot of places, a lot of urban places, especially, I mean, I know there's porn in rural places, but the majority of it takes place in urban spots. There's a trend where most violent crimes and most petty crimes have been decreasing for the past like 40 years, but two have been increasing: rape and sexual abuse. And so to me, it's like there's probably a connection there with that, because people are learning that, like, oh, this must be okay. Like, because in porn videos, like, no doesn't really mean no. And girls have this, like, these actresses or whoever, like, they're portrayed as, I want to have sex anywhere with anyone at any time, with how many people, like, it doesn't matter. I love that.
There's like videos that are dedicated to that to that type of like content where it's like
the fantasy of rape or something.
Yes, it's like rape fantasy. It's kind of what it's called. And so like literally we are, and people that this is kind of like what we were
I'm
talking.
getting a headache. Go
I know.
ahead. I'm like,
Sorry.
I'm gonna
It's
throw
kinda
up.
like what I was
Yeah,
talking
it's
about
really
earlier,
terrible.
where it's like these dark areas in this of this industry, or like on the internet, where you're like, I would never think that there's video. Like there's videos, and there are
Yeah.
people, and there are people that want videos like this, and then it's like that enjoy, and like people make content purposefully
For that.
like
Yeah.
for rape or animals or whatever. Like there's literally content for everything, and it like never ends.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
unending.
It stinks too that like in this sexual awakening, people are so body positive still, it's creating this, I mean, a little bit what you were saying, this like narcissistic spirit. It's about me. It's about what I want, what feels good, whatever. And we just keep throwing, just exploiting, but people just don't see it that way. They just think, no, like I'm allowing this, and you don't realize, oh, honey,
You're just a cog in the wheel.
yes, like this is not what God intended. Like you're worth more than this, and it's so sad.
But I mean, just look at advertisements in the past, 40 years, since like the 80s or the 90s. It's been all about sexuality.
Basically
just
So it's like it totally
everywhere.
makes sense why young girls grow up today and they're like, oh, I have to be sexy. Like I have to do this because, like I saw an advertisement of once of it was for a hamburger place, and it was these two girls standing in a kitchen in a bathing suit eating a burger. And I'm just like, the logical part of my brain is just like, who in their right mind would do it? Like, how dare you put on a bikini just to eat a burger? But
In a
the
kitchen.
thing is-
Everyone bought the burger.
Exactly. But it's like, it just blows my mind. It's like, no matter what, it could be anything, and we're going to promote it with sex.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I get why, like, kids grow up these days wanting to be sexy and wanting to be all about that. It's
And then
sad.
they don't know how to have a conversation, and it's separate. Like they know how to
look you in
text.
the
They don't know how
eye.
to look you in the
Yeah.
eye.
Yeah.
They don't know
Yep.
how to converse. And I just feel like everything, they're like rose-colored glasses. I think the majority of our young people, they can't look in you in the eye because all they see is through a sexual lens.
Yeah.
And you are an object of consumption.
Especially
You are
like
an
not
object
whatever.
of
but
consumption.
We're both female pastors, so it's even I can feel it sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, it's
Oh, wow.
weird for you. I know it's
Yeah.
weird for you.
It's
Like, and I'm
hard
like,
to-
I know it's weird for you to look me in the eye. Like I get it, but it's a special
Wow.
kind of challenge.
Yeah, it's a hard conversation because even on that, they just don't even know how to form a sentence of, hey, you know what? I need help.
Right.
They can't even really, that's why they don't know grammar. They just, they know porn.
I think like something that's on the rise too is not necessarily like a decline of porn, but like instead of using porn, like you talk to real people and just get them to like participate in like online sexual activity.
Right.
And so like maybe not so much a video, right, that you sit there and you watch on
Yeah.
your own, but like you go on Instagram and you start talking to a girl, and then you kind of just exchange pictures or videos.
like sexting and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sexting.
yeah.
And like, I know that's like, it's not novel, but I think it's been like,
it's
grown
explosive.
exponentially. And like now it's like younger people. Like, I mean, we like 15, 16, 17 year olds
Yeah.
that will send you a picture. Like
It's the norm.
it's
Yeah.
normal. And it's not even like, oh my, and if they were to get like the word were to spread that they
Yeah.
sent a dirty picture, like it'd be like, yeah, okay. Like
I actually don't
it's
care.
like normal
Yeah.
now. It's like
Yeah, it's just
whatever. Like
crazy.
we all do it. And I think that that's really, really scary because like, I mean, whatever, porn is not any better, but like, I mean, I had to sit down with Rachel one time. Well, actually, like on our second date, I told her, I was like, I need to tell you something, and I need to confess like my life to you because I don't want somebody else to tell you. And like I had a whole slew of things that I needed to tell her, which we can talk about in a different podcast. But one reason I had to tell her the stuff that I went through was because like I was like, you might find some like videos or pictures of me, and I don't want anybody to ever come up to you and like be like, what's going on, and for you to be out on
yeah.
like not know anything. And so like so we're doing this, right? Like 14, 15, 16 people are having these pictures like on your phone that literally anything can happen. You can grow up, become a free person, and then like this stuff can really like come
It
back.
haunts you,
Like
yeah.
I had to like confess years later to my future wife about what
Yeah.
this could do potentially, like, to our relationship. And like, that's a scary conversation to have.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I know we don't measure that when we're in the moment and we're just talking to a girl or a boy.
Yeah.
And we're just like, we just want to have fun and whatever.
Yeah.
I think also too, and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but like I keep thinking about this because we haven't really talked about it much. But also too, like women, like girls, when they're talking to a boy online, like they just want the boy's attention. And so, and the boy knows that. So then the boy will ask and will ask for whatever he wants to make sure that the girl gives him what he wants.
Yeah.
Yes. So that like he gets what he wants, and she is like out on a limb. Like she's like, he just wants to spend time. Before it was like, texting, like saying all the right things, or like, I'm just stringing you along. I don't want to date you. I just want to like go on dates with you or like hang out with you, right? Like before it was like that. Now it's like, I'm just going to string you along until you send me a naked picture.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to do that. Like I'm just going to, whatever I got to say, whatever I got to do to get this picture out of you. And then once I have the picture, then I'm going to ghost you or whatever and like block you, whatever I got to do. And that's going along. Like that was happening to me in my 20s, but there's stuff like that going on right now in high school.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
that's going on in middle school as well.
And middle school.
It is widespread.
Yep.
Yeah. I think, and it's never, for whatever, it's never okay to send a picture to whoever. Don't ever send it. Because I think there's just a lot. Well, it's not sex. It is very lustful. You don't need to do that. No one should ever do that. Honestly, I'm even at the point like when I see someone post a picture of just themselves by themselves and they're just like, whatever. I don't even like to like it because I feel like it feeds something in them, some sort of validation. That it's not necessarily a sexual thing, but it feeds a validation, and I don't ever want anyone to be validated because, okay, you are pretty.
Yeah.
And I've now pronounced that. I'm like, I'm getting convicted on that. I'm like, no, like I don't want it, because we start feeding that, you grow up. It scares me. I think of like my nephews and I'm like, wow, like they're already going to have social media accounts, all this stuff. And it's like their validation will come by how many likes and the sexier they, whatever, it'll be the likes. And it's crazy that's how we've learned to value ourselves. I got a lot of likes on this pic, so I'm beautiful. I got no likes, I'm taking it down, or I am ugly. It's crazy. Okay, so almost done. We're gonna just switch it. How do we overcome this? How do we fix this? How do we make it go away?
I wanna know.
Where does Jesus? When can Jesus come out of the grave?
Jesus,
Resurrection
here.
Sunday.
Yes.
There's hope.
Amen,
There's
amen,
love
amen,
and
amen.
clouds
We are
and
free.
restoration.
Yes, amen.
We lead healthy marriages.
It is possible, yeah.
That's true though. People need to know it's possible, because
Yeah.
I know a lot of, student or a lot of people we know our age, like they grew up the whole time and they're like, yeah, no one ever was free from it.
Yeah,
That
for
could help
sure.
me be free from it.
Yeah.
So tell
So
us.
how do we win the battle against pornography spiritually, practically? Any thoughts on that?
I
Great.
think for me, it was a mixture of both. It was very spiritual and practical. And it kind of annoys me sometimes because I've met people that are like, if you need to set up like barriers to get you to stop watching porn, then you're not relying on Jesus. And I'm just like, would you tell an alcoholic that if they can't stay away from a bar that they're not actually getting free? Like, like no, you would never do that. So I don't understand why people think it's different when it comes to pornography addiction. But like first, like practically, it got to the point where I'm just like, I need to cut everything and anything out of my life that I have to in order to focus on the spiritual component of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I have to like put up some wall or some barrier that could stop the addiction from just like constantly running my life. And so I literally I got rid of all social media, absolutely none, like no Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, like Tumblr, like Tumblr was big like back then, but but none of that. I got rid of all of it. I blocked it all. I started paying for a service. It's called Covenant Eyes. And it's $16 a month, which I know is, a good chunk of change, but it is what it is. And it monitors my internet service. And at the time, like it would send reports of what I was Like it literally takes screenshots of your computer. So there's like, you can't hide it. And it would send reports to my accountability partner. Now that like I'm married, it's like my wife is, you know, in control of it.
Yeah.
I basically bricked my phone. Like this is the most expensive paperweight I've ever owned. I have no app store. I have no Safari. I don't even have access to Google on this. Like I have like Google Docs, but I can't actually go to Google at all. Like, and that might seem like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, but let me tell you, I found this out. I didn't even know this was a thing. You know those little, I don't know what they're called. They're called like CAPTCHA, like the little things that try to verify you're not a robot.
Yeah.
Google owns that. So it blocks that on my phone. So like I'm like sitting there trying to order food and then I can't even verify I'm not a human and I can't even order out. Like, so there's so much I can't do now on my phone, but like it doesn't, who cares about the inconvenience? You know what I mean? Like literally who cares? Like I have a router at my house that it blocks all incoming pornographic material. So like even if someone comes in with their own device, you know, there's no way they could access it. Like nothing on TV, like nothing. I know it's like, that might sound extreme, but I'm like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to continue with that lifestyle. Like that was more important. I know people like, yes, it's inconvenient. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's annoying. Because I even have it now. Like I haven't got rid of it. What's the point? You know what I mean? Like God forbid, like I never want to be faced with that situation again. So, it sucks sometimes. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, it is an expense for Covenant Eyes that I have to pay monthly. That's worked into our budget, but it's like, who cares? Like at the end of the day, like I care more about, you know, having a genuine relationship with God. I care more about like not ending up in divorce and like having a genuinely successful marriage. Like I care more about like my kids not having to grow up like with pornography in the house. You know what I mean? So it's like, who cares about the inconvenience and the expense? Like you got to do whatever it takes to distance yourself from access to that. And I know that it's not like, that's not, you know, it's not 100%. Like, you know, there's probably ways around it, but that's when the kind of spiritual component has to take over, because like obviously like doing all this stuff can't free you from pornography. You know what I mean? You're just going to end up finding another way to manifest that desire. So once I set up all those guardrails, like now it's time to like really seek God and seek that change. And so like I first started just praying like God, I want to recognize just how destructive this sin is. Like I want to understand like how much you hate it. I want to hate it like that.
Wow, that's
you know what I
good.
mean? Like I don't want the desire anymore. Like any time that I desire pornography, like I want to think about what it must be doing to those people, you know, that are involved in it. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the difference comes in between like worldly sorrow versus godly sorrow. Like worldly sorrow is the whole like, oh, I just messed up again. Like I feel so bad. Like this sucks. Like I don't want anyone to find out, like whatever. But like godly sorrow is like, look how this is affecting your relationship with God. What does this do to him? What is this doing to your wife or the people that are close to you? What is it doing to your family? Like what is it doing to those girls that you're exploiting? And that's where like a change will begin to come. So that was the first thing. The second thing, it's like, God, I want a genuine fear of you. Like I want to actually revere you and who you are. Like I want, like you have to be the Lord of my life. Like I want to understand the depth of my sin. I want to understand the height of your holiness. Like I don't, I'm serious.
Because
I feel like there's such a big problem today where like people just see God as like this cheap grace God. It's just like, oh, he'll forgive me. He loves me, whatever. But what that does is you don't recognize how terrible your sin actually is. Two, you don't recognize how holy God is. And those two things put together leads your heart to believe that you don't really need a savior. You don't really need a Lord.
Or the price that was paid.
Exactly. And that's why Paul...
Taking notes?
I feel convicted right now.
Yeah, but like, that's why like I genuinely believe it.
That's good. It does result, you don't need a savior. That is exactly what that means.
Yeah.
So keep going.
So I genuinely get like why Paul would say like, I'm the worst of sinners, because it wasn't like lip service for him. It was literally like he knew Christ so well and how holy he was, and he recognized the depth of his sin, that he knew like there is nothing that can bridge this gap except for you. You know, I really am the worst of all, but like thank Jesus for like coming and dying on the cross, you know? And so it's like that was the whole thing. I'm like, I want to recognize that, and I want to fear you, God, and revere you, and not just accept your salvation, but I want you to genuinely be the Lord of my life.
Yeah.
And obviously that is a process. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like that. I'm like, oh, great. Like, you know, you're holy, God. It's just,
Right.
it's something that even today, like I'm constantly praying for, because I want more of that.
Yeah.
So that was the next step. Then it was just like, okay, God, I want to actually love you, so that I don't love this stuff. Like I want to love you over loving this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I want to find the sweetness in who you are and what you have created for me to genuinely enjoy, not what is artificial. And so I think that a combination of both, like that, and then genuinely seeking for the Holy Spirit to like take that impurity out of my heart, I feel like that is where the freedom came, you know? And it's not like Izzy was saying earlier, it's not like you don't still get tempted. You know what I mean? Like just because you haven't watched porn for however many years, like anything could still trigger some sort of thought you had 15 years ago, you know, or some image that you saw 15 years ago. Yeah. And so it's like, that's one of the reasons why I still have everything blocked on my computers and on my phone and whatever. Like even when I come to the church, my Wi-Fi doesn't work at the church because it thinks that my porn blocker is like something that's interfering with it. So, and like, it sucks, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know
It's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly. And that's where it comes back. I remember what it was called, neuroplasticity.
There
it comes
you
back
go.
to that, where it's like,
It worked.
I teed it
It's
up,
like
but
riding a bike.
but porn is just like riding a bike. Like even though you haven't done it,
Yep.
it still is so easy to relapse and fall back
Yeah.
into. And then
Oof.
that whole process is going to start all over again.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't want to get near that. And anytime a thought or temptation comes to my mind, and it's something I tell Kathy too, I'm like, I just want you to know, like, this stuff still haunts me sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, so like, I need you to continue to pray for me also.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, that's when it's, you know, like Job said, like, I'm going to make a covenant in my eyes. So when I'm walking down the street, I'm going to force myself not to look at, you know, so-and-so who's jogging or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm going to, like, even now, I still daily pray, like, God, like, let me not be tempted by this. Like, renew my thoughts so that this doesn't, you know, have to be a battle today, you know, in my mind. And so it's ongoing, but there is a point that if you don't give up, you can be free.
Amen.
And I think so many people, like, because the
Yes.
struggle is intense and it's real, like,
Yeah.
you just give up before. And a lot of giving up the fight of sexual sin is, it looks a lot like people just leaving the church. Because it's just like, God, like, you're not actually doing anything.
I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
On to the next question.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No,
no.
yeah. Like the next question, unless you want to add to that too, just like when someone's struggling with pornography or habit and they come to you looking for support or to listen for freedom, what's the best way to be accountable? Like for accountability for them, what's the best way us to like help other people that are struggling to be the best accountability partners?
I would encourage them, like, first of all, listen. Like if someone's confessing to you, just listen to them, because someone is broken enough,
Yeah.
like to the point where it's like, I have to tell somebody, especially with something that's so secret, so like so in your heart,
So shameful.
so
like,
shameful,
yeah.
right? Like, and they come to you and they come to me, then you just listen. There's no need to like remind them how terrible what they did is. It's like, okay, just listen, love them, and like just encourage them. I read Romans 6:12 through 16 is like gold, cause the whole Bible. But if you don't mind if I read it.
No, go for it.
So it says, therefore do not let sin reign in your mortal body. So it's like, it's almost like, so it's not almost, Jesus set us free from the bondage of sin, meaning that it's not that sin won't be present or can't be present in our life. It's simply that we now have the freedom to let it or not let it reign in our lives. And so, first of all, don't let sin reign in your mortal body so that you obey its evil desires. Do not offer any part of yourself to sin as an instrument of wickedness, but rather offer yourself to God as those who have been brought from death to life.
Wow.
And offer every part of yourself to him as an instrument of righteousness.
Yeah.
For sin shall no longer be your master, because you are not under the law, but under grace. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? By no means. Do you not know that when you offer yourselves to someone as obedient slaves, you are slaves to the one that you obey. So it's not, I'm a slave to righteousness because I came to the altar and I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
No. Yes, you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and now you are made right with God in that moment, and now you're free from the bondage of sin, meaning that you can now say no to the sin, right?
Yeah.
It's easier, right? Said than done. I know, I've been there. But like this, we have to be able to understand that the word is telling us that we can have freedom from this. And so we don't not give up because we have to not give up. No, we don't not give up because the word says that we can have freedom.
Yeah.
And so you're a slave to the one that you obey. So like if you obey like your flesh, you are a slave to your flesh. Even when you come to church, even when you're like, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
No, you're a slave to sin. Not because Christ's power is not strong enough.
Yeah.
No, it's because you obey, like you are a slave to what you obey.
Yeah.
And so like the more you feed into that, then the more enslaved you are. The Holy Spirit revealed this to me one time, an image of like him breaking my chains. I'll never forget. It was like when we were singing that song. It's like I can hear the chains.
I hear the chains gonna break every chain.
No, not break every chain, but it's whatever. It's one of the new
All
ones.
the chain songs. There's so many
all
of
the
them.
chain songs. One of the chain songs. But like I hear them. Let's just go with. Well, let's just go with break every chain. I was listening to break every chain.
Okay,
Yeah,
break every
yeah.
chain.
Then the Lord gave me an image of my chains on the ground, but then when I go back to sin, I literally grab the chains and I put them back on myself.
Yeah.
Like not the devil, not like any. I looked at the chains and I walked back to them.
Yeah.
And I chained myself back up.
Yeah.
And so like that's what this struggle with pornography or with any sin is like. It's not that it's unbeatable. Like you think that the desire is going to go away. No, you are a slave to what you obey, meaning that you will always have an opportunity to obey your flesh. Always.
Yeah.
Always. And so we have to consistently choose to obey Christ, and we have to consistently choose to obey, like, and it's not even like I need to not sin because no, we're going to sin. We're going to mess up. Like, it's not this like, I don't know, like it's going to take time, like Reese said, like it's a process.
Yeah.
But when someone comes up to me, I just encourage them. I remind them that it's going to be a process, that it's not going to be like something that ends right here. Like you have to make conscious decisions moving forward. And surrender to me is like the thing, because there's people, I know that there's people that are stuck watching porn because like in somewhere in their walk with the Lord told them to do something and they didn't. They disobeyed God, and it had nothing to do with porn.
Yeah, that's
it has
good.
nothing to do with porn. It literally was like, go pray for this person, or you should start doing this, or like, I want you to go into ministry, or I want you to do whatever. Literally just something that God told you to do that you thought that maybe you shouldn't do, or maybe you could go without.
Yeah.
Maybe it didn't seem like a big deal, and you just decided to not, and then you disobeyed, and that disobedience obviously just made it easier to continue to disobey.
Yeah.
And like these other
Because they fed the flesh, so
Yes.
it's easier to
So it's
feed the
easier to
flesh.
Yeah.
Because we love to compart. No, this is sexual sin, and this is tithing, and this is obeying God.
No.
I'm like, no, it's all like, it's all together. Disobedience is disobedience is disobedience.
Yeah.
One sin is not bigger than the other. Like, be like, oh, the church hate. I'm like, no, like sex, stealing, whatever, lying, not tithing. It is all bad.
Yeah.
You know?
When I came back to the Lord, when I was in Miami, the first thing the Lord said was like, how can you expect to do something every day? Like, cause I wanted to be disciplined. Look at God, like I'm just gonna try and be disciplined. Like, how can you expect to do something every day if you can't do something once a week? So then I was like, okay, I'll go back to church, cause I had stopped going to church. And then like I started going to church, and then the Lord said, okay, now serve. And I was like, okay, I'll serve. And then he was like, now tithe. It was literally like, go to church,
Yep. Building blocks.
serve, and tithe.
Yeah.
It's like, so like if you already go to church and you already serve, you should tithe.
Yeah.
And so like
We're supposed to
literally,
tithe?
literally like that. And the Lord took me, sir, and then tithe. And then he taught me how to like read my Bible and spend time with Jesus on the daily basis.
Yeah.
Then like
Wow.
he first took me like literally step by step by step. And like honestly, like for me, like fasting, tithing, like serving, like all those things like played a part. Now I'm sure that there's people that are listening that say, but I do serve and I do tithe and I read my word.
Yeah.
And still, and to you, I would say, like, you have to be able to keep yourself accountable with someone, like find someone that you trust, put your boundaries, like Reese said, and say no. Like it literally sounds like the easiest solution, but there is no other solution.
Yeah.
Like, and it sounds like the easiest and the hardest, but how do I say no? Like, just say no.
Yeah.
And you say no once, it will get easier to say no again. Now, I've also been where like I say no for a week, and on the 8th day, it's like the hardest, like,
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
oh my God, you're literally going through like withdrawal symptoms, like
You go
you're
a month
extra
and then,
hungry,
you know, or-
and then you struggle again, and you just don't give up, just don't give up, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up, because the freedom that's on the other side of learning how to say no, and not just no to sin, but yes to God, like learning
that's
to
good.
like
That's a
obey
good-
God, because like we can't just like look at sin and walk away from it without knowing like that we need to be really like walking towards Jesus and not away from sin. So like, okay, God, I want to say yes to you. Like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And like, guarantee you, I promise you that the first thing that God is going to tell you to do is not to stop watching porn.
Yeah.
Like when you say, God, what do you want me to do? He's not going to be like, you need to stop watching porn. Like, although you should,
Right.
and that's something that he wants you to do.
Yeah.
Like there is something that God wants for you to obey him in, that will contribute to the freedom that's in store for you.
Yeah.
And we sometimes just want to give God parts of our lives.
Yeah.
And we just can't do that. Like full surrender is really like what he's like, you can't say the words that he was saying earlier, like the desire to like know the depth of my sin and to know the height of his holiness. Like you can't say things like that from your heart without fully having surrendered your life to the Lord.
Yeah.
And that goes past going to the altar and saying, I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
That it's like, that's one step. That's the first step. And then goes surrender. Like the Lord will, if I promise you, God will ask, you will ask God, like, what should I do? And he will give you something to do. And if you practice obedience to the Lord, then it will be a lot easier for you to say no. It'll be a lot harder for you to disobey God because you'll see God's faithfulness.
Yeah.
You obey and he's faithful. You obey and he's faithful regardless.
Yeah, it's true.
But you obey and you see his faithfulness. Like
Yeah.
you're able to see it. And then you obey again and you see it again. And then it'll make it harder for when you get tempted, because you will get tempted to be like, but God was good.
Yeah.
Like, but he was faithful. And like, look at me now and look at all he's done. It's harder to like, to go back.
Yeah. It becomes a lot easier to say no, like once you've kind of like built up that resistance and you're walking like faithfully with God.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But
Okay.
it is possible.
It is possible. And it
Amen.
makes it easier too. And that's the thing too, like it's just funny because the more you say yes to God, you will say no to the flesh. And the more you say no to the flesh, you say yes to
Naturally.
God.
It's almost like it's biblical.
Almost. You know, but then just also too, then it's just like he still has parameters, he still has those boundaries, because that's the thing. You get to the point in Christianity that boundaries and saying no, like you want to, because you love
Yes.
God so much.
Yes.
You're like, please, I can't wait to fast. Please, I can't wait to like do this. And it's dumb, but it's just like you've just seen God so much and his faithfulness so much that you're just like, I want to do away with, I don't ever want to even I want to run after God, not after sin. Like you're all,
you don't even want to entertain the thought.
yeah, like you receive the boundaries don't even become boundaries. They become, you know, it's taking the limits off God and
Yes.
giving yourself to the life full, that the full life that he has for you. So
And I'm sure people watching it will be like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I've
Yeah.
never felt that. And like, I just challenge you, like, please just like trust the Lord.
Yeah.
Like actually trust God. Like when he tells you to do something or to not do something, like to break up with that person or to end that friendship or to say yes to the job or say no to the job. Like literally whatever it is that God is asking you to do that's hard
Yeah.
to do, like do that. Like obey God.
or
Like,
get
just-
covenant eyes.
Or
throw
get-
your
Yeah.
phone out. Throw your computer out. No, people throw
I
their
mean,
computers out. Get
I
a flip
have
phone.
people's computers that have given them to me because they're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm people's screen time accountability here. Like, and if they need an app updated, I'm like, well, you better come find me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I have to put it in the and everything like that. Like, it's inconvenient, but like, who cares? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And same with coming to like, fine, don't eat out a few times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or if you're really at the spot where you're like, but I really can't, like, there has to be something like, I'm just saying you can find a way. Like,
Yeah.
you find
You
a
wanna
way to
do it,
do what
you're
you
gonna
want
do
to
it.
do.
It's also like, oh no, I don't have Safari right now while I'm at church, and I'm
Yeah.
like, homie, get off your phone anyway.
Right?
You know, it's like,
church.
but the app I need, and I'm
Yeah.
like, do you
Mm-hmm.
not realize like you don't need an app, you don't need Wi-Fi.
even
These
need a
are like first
smartphone.
world problems, and
Yeah.
it is scary to go to hell
Mm-hmm.
for first world problems.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm like, it's embarrassing. I feel like as a American, I'm like, that's embarrassing.
But that's the thing too. Like, nobody who like chooses hell is going to sit there and be like, man, I'm glad I kept my smartphone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm glad that I was resistant and kept doing this. Like, nobody is going to think that.
Yeah.
You know, and the exact opposite is going to occur. They're going to be like, what was I doing? Like, why was
Right.
that so hard to give it? Like, why couldn't I, whatever?
Yeah.
Like, and the same thing is when I stand before God, like, it's still scary because, I'm just scary
is
thought.
scary.
But
The idea
I
of
know
it.
that I'm not going to sit there and be like upset that I did all this.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm not going to be upset that like, oh, look at all the time I wasted because I wasn't on social media. Like,
Yeah.
that will never be a thought in my
No,
mind.
he's not. He's going to go, well done, good and faithful servant. There's going to be little Reese's and
I
little
hope so.
Kathy's changing the world, taking over Africa, making all these movies, and they're
Amen.
all going to get to go to heaven because you decided to block your phone.
Yeah.
Amen.
And your kids and your future
Mm-hmm.
kids and your future legacy is worth so much more than stupid Safari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that note, this concludes this episode. If you liked what you heard, go ahead and subscribe. If you liked it, share it. Spread the word, spread the word, spread the love. Even if you don't struggle with this, you may know someone that struggles with it. And if you don't struggle, it's good to know this stuff because you probably know someone that maybe is addicted or is struggling or is trying to find a way out. Thanks so much, Reese and Izzy, for
guys.
joining us. And
you
of
for
course,
having us.
Pastor Kaimana. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.